He had never imagined that life could feel this heavy. Every morning began the same way, with the loud buzzing of the alarm pulling him out of a sleep that never felt deep enough. He would open his eyes and feel the weight of another long day waiting for him. It was not just work that made him tired. It was everything combined at once: the constant pressure, the worries that never left his mind, the feeling that he was trying to hold too many things together at the same time. Some days, he felt as if he was running on empty, but still expected to keep going. His days started early and ended late. Before the sun even rose, he was already thinking about emails he hadn't answered, tasks he hadn't finished, and upcoming deadlines he was not ready for. Even small things began to feel big. A message from someone asking for a quick update felt like another block added on top of a pile that was already too high. He kept trying to push through it all, telling himself that everyone goes through stressful times. But this was different. This was constant. This was draining. He noticed changes in how he lived. He ate quickly without really tasting his food. He skipped meals when work got too busy. He slept lightly, waking up several times in the night with his mind already racing. His thoughts jumped from one worry to another, never settling down long enough for him to breathe. There were moments when he would sit quietly in his room, feeling tired but unable to rest. Everything around him felt loud, even when the room was silent. The people around him started to notice something was wrong. They asked if he was okay, and he always gave the same answer: "I'm fine." It was easier to say that than explain the storm inside him. He didn't want to worry anyone. He didn't want to seem weak. So he kept everything to himself and acted like nothing was wrong. But deep inside, he knew he could not keep going like this forever. He needed something to help him slow down. He just did not know what that something was. One late evening, after a long, exhausting day, he sat on the edge of his bed scrolling through videos on his phone. His mind felt messy, and he hoped watching random videos would distract him. Most of the videos didn't catch his attention, but then he came across one that was different. It wasn't a tutorial, a comedy clip, or anything exciting. It was just a simple video with a soft classical tune playing in the background. He didn't even know why he tapped on it. Maybe it was the quietness of the thumbnail. Maybe it was the still, calming image. Whatever the reason, he clicked on it. And as the video started, a gentle piano melody filled the room. It was soft, slow, and peaceful. For the first time in weeks, he felt something inside him loosen. He sat still, listening to the music without moving, as if the sound itself had asked him to stop and breathe. There were no words in the music, only notes that rose and fell like calm waves. The sound felt warm, almost like someone placing a hand on his shoulder and telling him everything would be okay. He didn't recognize the piece, but it didn't matter. In that moment, the music felt like a safe space. He listened to the tune all the way to the end. And when the video finished, he felt a small sense of peace he hadn't felt in a very long time. It surprised him how much a simple melody could slow down the noise in his mind. He didn't know anything about classical music. He had always assumed it was complicated or boring. But this one piece showed him something different, something quiet, something healing. He replayed the video again, and then again. Each time, he felt the tightness in his chest relax a little more. The stress wasn't gone, but for a few minutes, it felt softer, lighter, easier to manage. He found himself closing his eyes, letting the sound wash over him like a gentle breeze. When the music ended for the third time, he realized he wasn't thinking about work, deadlines, or problems. His mind was calm, almost blank, and it felt like a small miracle. He didn't expect something this simple to help him, but it did. After that evening, he found himself searching for more pieces like the one he had heard. He typed soft piano classical music into the search bar and found dozens of videos. Some were short, some were long, some were played by orchestras, and others by solo musicians. He clicked on another video, then another. Each piece had its own mood, its own color, its own feeling. He didn't know the names of the composers, and he didn't care about the history behind the music. He only cared about how it made him feel. There was something honest about classical music. It didn't demand anything from him. It didn't try to grab his attention. It simply existed, calm and steady, waiting for anyone who needed it. The more he listened, the more he noticed small changes inside himself. His breathing started to slow down. His shoulders dropped from their usual tense position. His thoughts moved in a smoother way instead of jumping all over the place. For the first time in many days, he felt like he had found something that could truly help him. He kept exploring different pieces over the next few days. Whenever work felt overwhelming, he took a short break and played a soft track. When he felt nervous before a meeting, he listened to a calming violin piece. And each night, before sleeping, he played a slow, quiet melody that helped him ease into rest. Life didn't change overnight. The stress was still there. The responsibilities were still heavy. But now, he had something that acted like a small light in the darkness. A soft, steady guide that helped him through the difficult moments. Some nights, he would sit by the window with his headphones on, watching the quiet street outside as gentle music played in the background. The world looked softer at those moments. The streetlights glowed in a peaceful way. The air felt cooler. And for a little while, he felt connected to something beyond his worries. He began to look forward to these small musical breaks. They were like breathing spaces in his day moments, where he could step away from the noise of the world and reconnect with himself. He found comfort in knowing that whenever things felt too heavy, he could simply press play and let the music guide him back to calm. He didn't tell anyone about this new habit. It felt personal, almost private, a quiet bond between him and the music. He didn't need to explain it to anyone. He knew what it meant to him, and as the days passed, he realized something important. Stress might always be a part of life, but peace could also be a part of it. All he needed was the right sound, the right melody, the right moment. That evening, when he first listened to that simple classical piece, marked the beginning of a new chapter, one he didn't see coming, but one he was grateful for. He didn't know yet how deep this journey would take him. He didn't know how many beautiful pieces he would discover. He didn't know how much classical music would help him heal, but he was ready to find out, and this was only the beginning. He never planned for music to become a part of his life. It simply entered at the right moment, like a quiet guest who didn't need an invitation. After that first evening when he discovered the calming piano melody, something inside him shifted, even if just a little. He began to wonder if music could help him on the days he felt overwhelmed, lost, or drained. But he didn't want to expect too much from it. He had tried other things before that worked for a day or two and then stopped helping. Still, he found himself returning to the same melody the next morning. He played it while getting ready for the day, and somehow it softened the usual rush he felt. The sound filled the room slowly, gently, as if reminding him that he didn't have to start the morning with tension in his chest. For a few minutes, he let himself breathe normally instead of rushing through his thoughts. When he left for work, he carried that calmness with him, even if it was just a small piece of it. The traffic noise felt less irritating. The long elevator ride didn't feel as suffocating. Even the usual chatter around him didn't immediately drain his energy. He knew it wasn't magic, but it helped. And at that moment, he was grateful for anything that made life feel a little easier. Later in the day, when work stress began to rise again, he opened his phone and searched for another classical piece. He didn't know what he was looking for. He only knew he wanted something soft, something warm, something that felt like that piano melody he had heard the night before. He clicked on a video that said calming classical pieces for the mind. He wasn't expecting much, but the moment the music started, he felt a small wave of peace. This new piece was different. It wasn't just piano. It had strings that rose and fell gently like the slow movement of clouds. He found himself listening carefully, almost studying the sound. The music didn't rush. It didn't push. It just existed in its own calm pace, inviting whoever listened to slow down as well. He played it again during his break. Then again, when he felt his heartbeat speeding up during a busy moment. Each time the music helped him find a little room to breathe. It became a small reminder that even in a stressful environment, he could still create a moment of calm for himself. After work, he walked home instead of taking the bus, listening to the same piece on repeat. The soft strings made the evening feel different. The sky looked calmer. The street seemed quieter. And for the first time in a long while, he felt connected to his surroundings instead of trapped inside his own thoughts. When he reached home, he sat down on the couch and let the music continue. He wasn't trying to fix anything. He wasn't trying to escape his problems. He simply wanted to feel close to that quietness the music brought out in him. That night, he slept better than he had in weeks. During the next few days, the pattern continued. He found new pieces, each with its own personality. Some pieces felt like soft whispers, perfect for early mornings. Others felt warm and emotional, comforting him during heavy moments. Some had slow, deep notes that made him feel grounded, while others had light, uplifting tones that made him feel hopeful. The more he listened, the more he began to notice the effect music had on his emotions. He realized how certain melodies slowed his thoughts, how certain rhythms helped him focus, how certain notes eased the tension he carried in his shoulders. It was almost as if the music understood him in a way nothing else did. One evening, after another long day, he sat by his window again with his headphones on. A soft violin piece played quietly. He watched the street below, where a few people walked slowly and cars passed every few minutes. The world looked normal, unchanged, but he felt different. The music seemed to create a small bubble around him. It's a safe place where he could exist without pressure. He closed his eyes and let the music guide his thoughts. He remembered moments from his childhood, the peaceful ones, the afternoons spent outside, the sound of wind rustling through trees, the quiet nights when he would lie on the grass looking at the stars. The music reminded him of those simple times when life didn't feel heavy. He didn't know why, but it made him emotional. He wasn't crying, but his heart felt full in a gentle way. The music stirred memories he had forgotten, feelings he had ignored, and calmness he hadn't felt in years. It was surprising how a combination of sounds could bring out so much inside him. He felt grateful for it. He didn't tell anyone about this new connection he was forming with classical music. It felt like something he needed to experience alone, without explanation or interruption. It became his quiet companion, the one thing he could rely on when everything else felt overwhelming. On weekends, he began listening to music while cleaning his room or organizing his things. He noticed how the sound made these simple tasks feel easier, almost enjoyable. The music made the air feel lighter, the space feel warmer, and his mind feel clearer. He began to understand why some people described classical music as healing. He didn't need to know the history, behind the pieces or the stories of the composers. He didn't care about the technical aspects of the music. He cared about how it made him feel. And what it made him feel was peace, something he had been desperate for. Every night before sleeping, he listened to one slow, gentle piece. It became a small routine, but a meaningful one. The soft notes helped his mind slow down, helped his breathing settle, helped his thoughts drift into softer places. He no longer lay awake for hours thinking about work or worries. The music acted like a quiet lullaby, guiding him into rest. Days passed, and he found himself actively looking forward to listening to music. It became the one part of his day that never disappointed him. Even on the toughest days, he knew that as soon as he pressed play, he would feel a little better. He started collecting pieces he loved. Not officially, but in his own quiet way. Whenever a melody touched him, he saved it. Whenever a piece made him feel calm, he added it to his playlist. The playlist slowly grew, becoming a reflection of his journey, each piece carrying its own memory, its own meaning. He found a soft piano piece that made his mornings feel brighter. He found a warm violin duet that helped him through lonely evenings. He found an orchestra piece that made him feel strong again when he was losing hope. Each piece had a purpose, even if he didn't know it at first. There were moments when he wondered why he had never explored classical music before. Maybe he wasn't ready then. Maybe he needed the struggle to appreciate the calm. Maybe life brought the music to him when he needed it most. He sometimes caught himself smiling when a piece surprised him with its beauty. It was a simple smile, soft one, the kind that formed without him realizing. Those small moments reminded him that he was still capable of feeling good things, despite the stress he carried. Over time, he began to understand himself better. The music made him reflect, made him breathe, made him slow down long enough to see what he had been ignoring. He noticed how tense he had become, how rushed his life felt, how little time he gave himself to rest. Classical music didn't solve his problems, but it showed him what he needed to pay attention to. Some evenings, he would sit quietly on his bed, the room dim, the music playing softly in the background, and he would allow himself to simply exist. No pressure, no expectations. Just a person listening to gentle sounds that made life feel lighter. And as he listened to more pieces, his connection with classical music grew stronger. It no longer felt like something he discovered by accident. It felt like something that was meant to find him, something that arrived in his life at the perfect time. The music became his calm in chaos, his quiet in noise, his peace in stress. And even though he didn't realize it yet, this connection was only growing deeper. The journey had only begun. He didn't plan to create a collection. It just happened slowly, almost naturally, as the days passed. Every time he discovered a classical piece that made him feel calm, he saved it. Every time a melody softened his thoughts, he added it to his growing list. At first, he didn't think much about it. He was just collecting moments that helped him breathe, moments that felt gentle, moments that reminded him that life didn't have to be loud all the time. But as his playlist grew, he noticed something interesting. Certain pieces stayed with him more than others. Some carried a warmth that he could feel even after the music stopped. Some made his chest loosen, as if the weight inside him was slowly fading away. Some had a softness that made them perfect to listen to at night when he wanted the world to quiet down. One evening, when he sat on his bed with his headphones on and scrolled through the pieces he had saved. There were more than he realized. Soft piano solos, peaceful violin pieces, calm orchestral movements, and gentle guitar melodies. Each one held a small part of his journey, even if it wasn't visible to anyone else. He began to wonder if he could sort these pieces in a way that made sense, not just randomly saved, but grouped based on how they made him feel. So he started listening to each track again, taking his time, giving each piece a moment to speak to him. Some tracks made him feel warm inside, like a soft glow spreading through his chest. Others made him feel grounded, steady, safe. Some brought out a quiet sadness that didn't hurt, but helped him release emotions he had been holding for too long. As he listened, he realized something he had never expected. These pieces were not just sounds. They were reflections of his emotions, calm, heavy, hopeful, tired, peaceful, thoughtful. They were like mirrors that showed him parts of himself he had ignored while rushing through his days. He found himself listening more carefully, noticing things he had missed before: the gentle rise of a note, the soft pull of a violin string, the delicate space between sounds where silence felt like part of the music. He started to appreciate how much detail and emotion went into each composition. Even though he didn't know the technical terms, he could feel the meaning behind the notes. Over the next few weeks, he spent more time discovering new pieces. He explored playlists, recommendations, and videos that introduced him to music from different times and places. He didn't care about the year the music was written or the story behind it. He only cared about how it made him feel. He discovered a piece that felt like sunrise, a gentle beginning that made him feel hopeful even on difficult days. He discovered another piece that felt like sitting near a quiet river, listening to water flowing softly. There was a soft piano melody that reminded him of the comfort of a warm blanket on cold nights. Another piece carried a dreamy feeling that made his mind wander to peaceful places. He started writing down small notes for himself about each piece. Not complicated notes. Just simple feelings like, feels like a calm morning. Warm and gentle. Helps me breathe. Good for stressful days. These small descriptions helped him understand what he connected with the most. Slowly, a pattern began to form. He found himself drawn to pieces that had a slow, steady rhythm, the kind of music that didn't rush or demand attention. Music that simply stayed beside him like a quiet friend. One night, after a tiring day, he listened to a long orchestral piece that he hadn't heard before. It started softly, almost like a whisper, and slowly grew into a warm, full sound. As the music built, he felt his emotions rising with it. Something inside him stirred a mixture of relief and understanding. It felt like the music was telling him that it was okay to feel tired, okay to feel overwhelmed, okay to feel human. He realized that classical music had become more than a way to relax. It had become a part of his healing, a part of how he understood himself, a part of how he navigated through his stress. There was a moment when he finally admitted to himself that he was creating something meaningful. Personal list of pieces that made life easier to face. A list that held 30 tracks that helped him breathe, think, rest, and even dream. He didn't choose the number on purpose, but by the time his collection reached 30, he felt something click inside him. 30 pieces. 30 small sanctuaries. 30 quiet moments. Each piece held its own space in his heart. And together, they formed something. Like a musical map of his journey from stress to calmness, he began listening to the playlist in different ways. Some days he played it from the beginning and let the music guide him through all the emotions he carried. Other days, he chose just one or two pieces that matched how he felt. Sometimes he listened while working, letting the music soften the edges of his stress. Other times he listened while lying in bed, letting the melodies slowly wash away the day. He noticed how each piece could change the atmosphere of a moment. A soft piano tune in the morning made the world feel fresh. A gentle violin piece during the afternoon made the noise around him less sharp. A peaceful orchestral movement at night made darkness feel comforting instead of heavy. He discovered that music wasn't just background noise. It was something that shaped the way he experienced the world. There were times when he wondered why these classical pieces touched him so deeply. Perhaps it was because they had no words, only emotions. Words can get confusing, heavy, or overwhelming. But music reached him in a way that didn't need explanation. It spoke directly to the part of him that needed peace the most. Some evenings, he sat outside under the open sky with his headphones on. The music played softly as he listened to distant sounds, the wind brushing against leaves, the faint hum of traffic, the distant bark of a dog, the quiet steps of someone walking by. With the music in his ears and the world around him moving gently, he felt connected in a way he hadn't felt in years. He felt calm. He felt grounded. He felt alive in a quiet, peaceful way. The playlist became something he couldn't imagine his days without. It wasn't just a collection anymore. It was a reminder that he had found something beautiful during a difficult time. Something that helped him stay balanced. Something that made even the hardest days feel lighter. He shared a couple of pieces with someone he trusted. Not explaining much, just saying, "This helped me today." He didn't expect anything from it. But when that person said the music made them feel calm too, he felt strangely happy. It made him realize that music's power didn't end with him. It could bring peace to others too as the days continued. He listened to the playlist whenever he needed to steady himself. Some days were smooth. Others were chaotic. But no matter what the day brought, he knew he had these 30 pieces to guide him, calm him, and remind him that peace was still within reach. One night, he sat quietly in his room with the lights dimmed. He played the playlist from the beginning. The first note filled the room with a soft warmth. As the music continued, he closed his eyes and let each piece carry him to a different place. He remembered the first night he discovered classical music, the night he clicked on that random video, the night a simple melody changed something inside him. He remembered the heavy stress he used to carry, the sleepless nights, the constant pressure, and he realized how far he had come. The music didn't erase his problems. It didn't fix everything, but it helped him find strength. It helped him find clarity. It helped him find peace. And as he listened to the 30 pieces that had become a part of him, he realized that this journey had become more meaningful than he ever expected. He didn't discover classical music to escape life. He discovered it to embrace life with a calmer heart. And now, with these 30 timeless pieces by his side, he felt ready for whatever came next. He didn't realize when classical music stopped being just a comfort and slowly became a part of his routine. It blended into his days in a natural way, not forced, not planned, almost like breathing. Every morning, as he got ready, he played a soft piece that helped him begin the day with a calmer mind. The mornings felt lighter because of it. The silence that once felt heavy was now filled with gentle sounds that made his thoughts move more smoothly. He noticed how his daily rhythm changed without him even trying. Before, his mornings used to start with a rush checking messages, worrying about deadlines, and feeling the weight of another long day. But the music helped him ease into things. Even when he knew he had a busy day ahead, he didn't feel as overwhelmed. The melodies prepared him emotionally in a way he couldn't fully explain. At work, continued playing the softer pieces in the background. It helped him stay focused without feeling pressured. The sound created a small barrier between his mind and the noise of the world. Whenever his thoughts grew too loud, or when work began to pile up, he would take a few minutes to listen to one of his favorite tracks. Those short breaks made a huge difference. They reminded him to breathe, to slow down, to not lose himself in stress. People around him began to notice changes in him. They didn't know what caused it, but they saw how he didn't get frustrated as quickly as before. How he handled difficult conversations with more patience. How he seemed calmer, steadier, more balanced. He didn't tell them about the music, not because he wanted to hide it, but because it felt personal. A quiet part of his life that didn't need attention or explanation, even at home. Classical music followed him in a peaceful way. He played it while making dinner, and it turned ordinary moments into something gentle. The sound filled the kitchen while he chopped vegetables or stirred a pot on the stove. Somehow, even simple tasks felt more meaningful when accompanied by calm melodies. He realized how much stress he had carried before, how much tension he held in his shoulders, and how fast his thoughts used to run. Now, even when the day had been long or tiring, the music helped him reset. It gave him a chance to let go of everything he didn't need to carry. Sometimes, after dinner, he sat on the couch with dim lights and listened to longer orchestral pieces. He didn't do anything else during these moments. He didn't scroll through his phone or watch something on screen. He simply listened. These moments felt like small retreats from the world, as if the music pulled him into a different space where he could rest. He didn't know the stories behind the compositions, but he felt connected to them. Each piece carried its own emotion. Some carried sadness, but in a calming wail, like the type of sadness that helps release the tension stored in the heart. Some carried hope. Some carried peace. Some carried strength in a quiet and steady form. He started sharing a few of his favorite pieces with people close to him, especially when he knew they were going through tough times. He didn't say much, just sent a link with a short message like, "This helped me on a rough day." Sometimes people told him they listened and felt lighter. Hearing that made him feel warm inside. He enjoyed the idea that something that brought him peace could bring peace to others too. There was a particular day when he felt especially overwhelmed. Everything seemed to go wrong from the moment he woke up. He spilled water on the kitchen floor. He was late leaving home. He couldn't find something important he needed for work. And when he finally reached his workplace, he had to deal with a long list of problems that piled up one after another. By midday, he felt drained in a way he hadn't felt in months. His thoughts grew loud again. His chest felt tight. The calmness he had built began to slip away. For a moment, he felt like he was returning to the old version of himself. It's the one who used to feel overwhelmed all the time. He stepped outside and sat on a bench behind the building. He put on his headphones and played the first piece on his playlist, the same soft piano melody that started everything. As soon as the music began, he closed his eyes. The sounds felt familiar, comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold day. Slowly, he felt his breathing steady. The tightness in his chest eased. The noise inside his mind softened. He listened all the way through, letting the music guide him back into a calmer place. By the time the piece ended, he felt different. Not perfect, not suddenly happy, but grounded, strong enough to continue the day. It reminded him that peace was always there waiting for him, even on the hardest days. Even when he felt like he was falling apart, that moment showed him how much classical music had changed him. It wasn't just entertainment. It wasn't a hobby. It was a part of his emotional well-being, a quiet guide he relied on without even realizing it. The music didn't erase stress, but it helped him handle it in a healthier way. As the weeks passed, the playlist became something he trusted. It became a part of his identity. something that defined the way he moved through life. It changed the way he reacted to challenges, the way he processed emotions, the way he treated himself. He also started finding new places to listen to music, during long walks, during bus rides, during quiet nights, during early mornings when the world was still half asleep. Each environment gave the music a different feeling. When he listened outside while walking through a quiet street, the music made the world feel softer. When he listened before bedtime, it made the darkness feel peaceful instead of empty. The more he listened, the more he understood that peace doesn't come from big things. It comes from small moments. Moments like sitting alone for 10 minutes with a calming melody. Moments like letting the music slow his heartbeat. Moments like breathing deeply when a soft note falls gently. He learned to give himself permission to rest, to pause, to take things one step at a time. The playlist helped him do that. Each piece served as a reminder that he didn't have to rush through life. He didn't have to carry everything alone. He could let himself be human, imperfect, emotional, tired, hopeful. People around him kept noticing the change in him. They said he seemed more balanced, more patient, more present. Some asked him how he managed to stay calm during stressful situations. He didn't always know how to answer. It felt strange to simply say, "Music helps me," even though it was the truth. Instead, he would shrug softly and say something like, "Just trying to take things slowly." But deep inside, he knew that the playlist played a big role. It was a quiet source of strength he carried everywhere. There were moments when he listened to his playlist while lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling, letting his mind drift freely. These were moments when he processed things he had been avoiding, feelings he had pushed aside while trying to keep up with life. The music didn't judge or rush him. It simply supported him as he sat with his emotions. He realized that classical music didn't just brought clarity. It helped him understand himself better. It helped him understand what he needed, what he missed, what he wanted. It helped him reconnect with parts of himself he had forgotten. He began to feel grateful for the stress he once hated, because without those overwhelming days, he might never have found this peaceful corner of life. He might never have learned to appreciate quiet moments. He might never have discovered the healing power of sound. One quiet evening, as he sat by his window with a warm drink and his playlist playing softly, he thought about how far he had come. The person he used to be, the one buried under pressure every day, felt like a distant memory now. He was still the same person, but calmer, stronger, more centered. Classical music didn't change his life in a dramatic, sudden way. It changed him slowly, gently, piece by piece. It taught him that healing doesn't have to be loud or complicated. Sometimes healing is a soft note, a slow melody, a moment of quiet in the middle of a busy world. The playlist had become his companion on good days and bad days, a quiet friend who never left. A presence that reminded him he could handle whatever life brought. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure: classical music would always be a part of his journey, a part of who he was becoming. And as he sat there listening to the soft notes drifting through the room, he felt ready for whatever came next in life. Knowing that he carried peace with him wherever he went, the feeling of calm had become a natural part of daily life. Something that felt almost strange at first. After spending so many weeks exploring classical music and letting those 30 pieces shape moments of peace, the person now woke up with a softer mind and a lighter heart. It was not a sudden change, nor did it happen overnight, but it grew slowly, like a warm morning light slipping through a window. Every day brought a new chance to breathe easier, and that alone felt like a gift. There were still busy days, of course. Work still demanded attention. Calls still came in, tasks still piled up, and some evenings still felt heavier than others. But the difference now was simple. The stress no longer controlled everything. Whenever the pressure arose or the mind became loud again, there was always a quiet space to return to, even in the middle of a crowded day. Slipping in an earbud and listening to one of the familiar classical pieces could shift the whole atmosphere inside. It was like having a permanent doorway to peace. The person soon realized that this change was not only about music, it was also about the way they had learned to slow down, to observe, and to take small moments seriously. Classical music had taught them to pay attention to the soft details of life, the sound of rain outside a window, the way light danced on a table, the gentle pause between words in a conversation. Life felt fuller now, richer, even though nothing dramatic had happened. That was the beauty of it. The peace came from simple things that had always been there. Sometimes, during quiet evenings, the person would sit near the window with a warm drink and play one of the deeper orchestral pieces. The music would start softly and then grow, filling the room with a warmth that felt almost like a presence. It reminded them of everything they had been through, the stress, the confusion, the moments when everything felt too heavy. And now, it reminded them of how far they had come. That contrast made the music feel even more meaningful. There were moments when they felt emotional without knowing exactly why. Maybe it was because classical music touched parts of the heart that words never reached. Maybe it was because each melody carried old memories and new feelings at the same time. Some pieces made them think of childhood, some of quiet parks, some of people they missed, and some of moments they had not lived yet, but could somehow imagine. Music had a strange way of doing that, bridging different parts of life in a gentle, visible way. One afternoon, while sitting in a cafe, the person noticed a young man nearby who looked overwhelmed. He kept checking his phone, rubbing his forehead and breathing heavily. The person hesitated for a moment, but then felt a small push inside. They opened the playlist they had created, the one with the 30 classical pieces, and wrote a short note on their phone. "This helped me more than I can explain. Maybe it will help you too." They quietly walked over and showed the message. The young man looked surprised, then grateful. He put on his earphones, played the first piece, and within minutes his shoulders began to relax. He looked up, nodded with a soft smile, and whispered a thank you. That moment stayed with the person for a long time. It made them realize just how powerful small acts could be. As weeks passed, more people began discovering the playlist. Friends shared it with coworkers, family members played it during early mornings, and even strangers online wrote messages about how calming it felt. The person never expected such a simple collection of music to make such a difference. It was comforting to know that peaceful energy could travel from one person to another so effortlessly. Life around them also started to feel different. People seemed kinder. Conversations grew softer. Moments felt clearer. Even the sounds of the city cars, voices, distant street noise, seemed less harsh. Or maybe nothing had changed. Maybe only the person had. Classical music had shaped a new way of seeing the world. There were also nights when the person would lie down and play the softest pieces to help them sleep. The music became a blanket for the mind, quieting the leftover thoughts of the day. In those moments before sleep, they often wondered how they ever lived without this calm. They felt grateful for the night when they had stumbled upon that first simple melody, had opened a door they never knew existed. One day, while organizing their desk, the person found an old notebook where they had once written a list of stressful tasks, worries, and fears. It was filled with tired handwriting, scribbles, and crossed-out thoughts. Reading it now felt almost unbelievable. It reminded them of how confused and overwhelmed they once felt. They sat there for a moment, letting the memory sink in, and then gently closed the notebook. It was a chapter they no longer lived in. Instead, they opened another notebook, one they had started recently. This one was filled with calm reflections, quotes from composers, personal notes about how certain pieces made them feel, and small reminders to breathe, rest, and reflect. It was like a soft map of their inner journey. As they turned the pages, they felt a sense of pride, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that comes from growth. Later that week, the person visited an old music shop. The owner, an elderly man with kind eyes, recognized the interest in their face. He asked if they were searching for anything special. The person explained how classical music had changed their life and how they now wanted to understand it even deeper. The owner smiled gently and showed them old vinyl records, worn books about composers, and handwritten notes about musical history. It felt like stepping into another world. They spent almost an hour there, listening to stories, touching old covers, and letting the atmosphere sink in. Before leaving, the owner handed them a small vinyl record wrapped in soft paper. "This one helped me through hard times," he said. Maybe it will mean something to you as well." The person held it carefully, feeling touched by the gesture. That night, they played the record on a small turntable. The sound was warm, slightly grainy, and incredibly comforting. It felt human, almost as if the music carried memories from everyone who had ever listened to it. The room filled with a deep sense of peace. The person closed their eyes and let the music take them somewhere quiet inside. As more weeks passed, the person noticed that stress no longer hit them the same way. Challenges still came, but now there was a sense of balance. The calming music pieces had trained their mind to pause before reacting, to breathe before sinking, and to observe before drowning in worry. It was not a perfect life, but it was a more peaceful one. Soon, they began making a small tradition for themselves. Every Sunday morning, they would sit in a quiet corner of their home, play one of the classical pieces, and reflect on the week. This ritual became a grounding moment, a time to reset, breathe, and begin again. It reminded them that peace was not something found only in rare moments, but something built slowly through habits. One morning, while listening to a soft piano piece, they thought about all the people silently struggling with stress, people who had no idea where to begin, who felt alone in their thoughts, who kept everything inside. They knew exactly how that felt, and they wished they could tell each of them that. Sometimes healing begins with something as simple as a single melody. With that thought, they decided to share their full journey with others, hoping it might help someone who felt lost. Not to show off, not to inspire in a dramatic way, but simply to remind people that calm was possible even in a loud world. They described how each of the 30 classical pieces had shaped a different moment of peace, how some helped them breathe on tough mornings, how some carried them through sleepless nights, how some made them cry in a good way, how some reminded them to rest, and how together they slowly turned stress into something manageable as they shared their story. Messages began coming in from people who said the playlist had helped them sleep better, work better, think better, or simply breathe better. Each message added another warm layer to the person's heart. It was amazing to see how something so simple, 30 peaceful pieces of music, had started a chain of calm that kept growing. It felt like the world was full of invisible threads connecting people through sound. One evening, as the sun was setting, the person sat outside with their headphones on. The sky turned soft shades of gold and pink. Birds flew quietly. The world around them slowed down. And in that moment, as the music wrapped gently around their thoughts, they felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the journey. Gratitude for the calm. Gratitude for the day they discovered the first melody. Gratitude for the way life had shifted Evan, without dramatic changes. The person knew that stress would still come and go. Life would still bring challenges, unexpected moments, and heavy days. But now they also knew they had something strong within them, a quiet strength that classical music had helped awaken. As the last notes of the piece played softly in their ears, they took a slow breath and smiled gently. The journey that began with stress had led them to peace, reflection, and a softer way of living. Those 30 timeless classical pieces were more than music now. They were memories. They were comfort. They were a safe place, and they would remain with the person, quietly guiding them for the rest of their life.